Is the Zoom microphone working? Yes. And Nick, do you want to just say hi and I will turn myself on? Hi everyone. We've no idea if this is going to work properly because it's sort of new technology that we're playing with at the moment, trying to figure out how to live stream from the headset. Nick is in the main space now. He's not actually standing upside down, he's taken the headset off. But what we're going to do is maybe take it in turns. Nick's going to go through the project that we worked on over the last few weeks. Just 2 weeks ago we finished it, and yeah, we're going to try and make this work. So there's a microphone on Nick's headset so he can talk and answer questions and things. There's the microphone here. There's the sound on the headset that I might just tweak.
Can they hear me? You're like, hello? Can they?
Yeah, so they can, they should be able to hear you. We'll find out. If the levels are a little bit bad, then just let me know. We can adjust everything. And let me jump in and just see if I can get everyone with a live chat and everything. Grace is here. Okay, Grace, let us know if the volume for everything is good. So we can just get a feel for how everything is set up. If we need to adjust anything. Do you want
to, if they give a sign to say they can hear me, like a thumbs up or something?
Well, let me just see how much of a delay there is between me saying something and the live footage.
Okay.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. About 12 seconds. Alright, so what we're looking for, if there's any problems with the levels, can you hear the experience itself, which is quite important for this one because it's all about mixing sound together and influencing the way that all of these adorable animals are making music. And I think probably assuming that everyone can hear what's going on, we'll go from there. There might be a little bit of crosstalk from this microphone that I have here. We can hear you, Lobster. Okay, that's awesome. Cool beans. All right. So let's start by introducing what this world is. Nick, if you just want to look around the different characters. Mm-hmm. What we were doing was, Nick is a musician and he's currently studying at the conservatorium looking at improvisation. So we were looking at a way of trying to riff on the idea of improvisational music within this work. So one side of that is each set of animals has got a different bit that it's contributing to the overall sort of piece. And we were sort of exploring what we could do with how to influence the improvisational nature of what the animals are playing. So what Nick's doing when he picks up one of these balls is the animals are playing, and when you're not interacting with anything, you just have this sort of constellation of stars in the middle of the experience, and it will just pretty much play itself. So do you want to just leave it for a second just to let them move around by themselves? So they'll just sort of tend to drift around, and as they drift they'll change the parameters, the settings of how the animals are playing. So one of the ones that's very easy to hear is there's a vocal bit that's being sung, and as the constellation moves, the pitch of the vocals will shift slightly. There's other things. The zither will change from a drone to more of a solo at a certain point. The percussive stuff will change, will become more or less dense depending on how the settings are set up for it. The flute will change from more solo things to more sort of drony things. So all of the different coloured stars in this constellation, as they're just sort of drifting around by themselves, will change the way that everything sounds. And also, you can go in and grab the stars and shift them around and actually have control over how the music is being played and how it sounds. It just tripped over a stool. Cool. And this is one part of this was kind of inspired by a residency artist who was here a good few years ago, Jessica Eckermann, who was a sound artist who worked with, we made a VR patch that took information about 3D objects and put it through into a Max MSP patch. So that's basically a separate laptop that has a generative sound system built into it. And then we just say, okay, if this object is moved at this height or in this location, then it sends information to the laptop and the laptop changes things. The difference with this one is that it's all running in the headset. So it just sits there and runs by itself. You don't need to have a separate computer. It's all just like creating the sound in the headset itself. Cool.
Yeah, that's interesting. When you move closer to an instrument, it increases in volume. So if I move towards the box, it gets louder.
So there's a little bit of spatialization that we put on the animals. So if you're looking in their direction, then you'll hear them a little bit louder. And as Nick is showing, if you get closer to them, then they'll be louder as well. Should we introduce all of the animals?
Yeah, why not?
Well, if you've been following on Instagram, then we've already done a bit of an introduction of all the animals. But we can show off how adorable they are.
This one's Brittany, and this is that's Brittany over there, and that's her Jack Russell friend. Josh, this is the rabbit.
Colin?
I forget what the rabbit's name is.
Colin.
It's really weird because I don't really know who I'm talking to or what's going on outside. But anyway, I'm just gonna keep on going with this.
Yeah, sure.
This is the bear. I forget.
You've forgotten all their names. All right. So the rabbit is called Colin. The bear is Jean. There's Amity singing, so you can see her mouth opening as she's singing. And that's the one where the pitch changes as you move the different objects around. And let's see, Gertrude and Alice, the chickens that we just looked at for a second. They're quite cute. Every so often they'll just peck at the tambourine and the cowbell to make it go. There's Patrick down there playing the synthesizer. The flute is Lucy and the fox is Leonard. Cool. So what we can do maybe is, do you want to just reset it to show it playing itself for a little bit?
Yeah.
So if you press the joystick button down on any of them, it will reset the scene and just go back to the original. So this is, if we just leave it for a moment and let it play itself. Oh. Do you want to just leave it to play, to move around a little bit? Just for a moment. So you'll sort of hear, I can't quite hear what's going on from the headphones. But you'll hear that the sound will start to shift around as the stars are moving around themselves. So you don't actually need to really be hands-on in it to make it play music. It will just sort of sit there and those things will move around and change the sound that's going on. Nick, do you want to talk about the visual element of it? Maybe the forest in the background?
Yeah, sure. Do you want to swap and
okay.
jump in this world?
Cool. Does this one run out of batteries? No. Maybe it has. I think I have a battery in my pocket. I'm doing this blind, changing the battery without looking, because Because I got the headset on. So yes. Cool.
Yeah, so I think visually we were trying to make something that was quite calming and that was immersive. I'm watching myself in my past. Yes, so you're sort of put in this space where you're surrounded by trees and animals, and you're quite surrounded by sounds as well. So we wanted that to be like I said, quite a calm thing. It would have been really good if you were here to see this and to have the headset on and experience that. I think part of bringing that calm aesthetic in was cutting out the trees and having like hand drawing pictures and things like that. And the animals came out of just trying to make it a bit more less human, a bit more subjective, less subjective.
And they're also adorable. Right? They're pretty cute.
Yes, when they're not eating you. I think again that helps to create a more calm space. Visually it's. I think also because you're in the middle of this thing and you're surrounded with this, like a mandala came into the idea as well. So you're in the center of it. Whether you feel that way when you're in it and you feel calm and relaxed, I hope that it does that. Do you think it's doing that? How do you feel about it?
Me?
Josh? How do you feel? I feel quite calm.
It's nice. Sometimes it goes off into a little bit of a dissonant sort of thing, but it's kind of, it never goes so dissonant that it feels really anxiety inducing. It just sort of goes interesting, and then it tends to sort of shift out of that as well. I think it's alright.
Yeah.
Are you looking at the Facebook feed at the moment, Nick?
I'm trying to...
I was going to try and grab two different instruments that I can sort of play with this. So I quite like changing the flute. Can't hear what this one is. This is a synthesizer.
It's in a forest, so I'd hopefully find that to be a nice place to immerse yourself in. What else? Do you have any questions that you want to ask about this piece?
I found your voice.
This is probably like if you're watching this and
takes 12 seconds for any question that you ask to get to the people, so if you do ask for questions,
I guess working with Josh and doing this project was really interesting. It's really good for me to do this. Even right now, it's really interesting. Kind of watching someone else in that space, and I think we'll do this again. After it's not so crazy and we can be with each other.
Have actual people in it.
Yeah.
Cool. People are actually asking questions.
I think they're trying to engage, and I think sing the mango song. Someone's done some music in a whale. We can
They're trying to engage. Thank you for all of your questions and suggestions. We appreciate them all, even though some of them are kind of difficult to understand. So I suppose I could say that this project is one of a bunch that forms VR studios that Tactical Space is doing with different artists over the next few months. So it's probably going to change shape a little bit because our contact time is probably less wise to have needless contact time and have people here in person. But what we're going to do is probably do some remote work with the different artists. So try and figure out the best possible way to continue the VR studio into the future, just while also maintaining social distance and a little bit of isolation that we need. And one thing that I've done is I got an extra headset that we can spray totally down with isopropyl, so it's all nice and decontaminated, and pass on to artists so that they can use them in their home. And then it's not too bad working in digital for sharing work and sharing projects and things like that. We can put all of these experiences online as videos for people to see, or as actual applications that if you have a headset like this you can install. So I'm going to put everything that comes out of these workshops on itch.io so people can download and have a play if they want, and just try and document as much as possible for people to get access to. So it should be interesting. We do have the advantage of being able to show things without people needing to be physically present, so that's kind of nice. And really we should be taking advantage of it, because there's not many people who are able to continue showing their work at the moment in a sort of risk-free way. So that's what we're doing. You can go to the website and see some of the projects that we've done already. Just finished working with the artist Tarek Arlep, and we'll be showing that one in a couple of weeks. So stay tuned, I'll post stuff about the live stream for that one. Otherwise, are there any questions? Is anyone saying anything?
No one is saying.
What did they say?
I've got any lizards. Are there any lizards that I think someone wants to know about the other animals that might be in the forest?
Who's asking that?
It's Europe. So no, there aren't any other
Lizards.
Yes, there are lizards, but they're hiding behind the trees.
Yeah.
they're hiding from me at the moment because they're really, because they don't know which world I'm in. Yeah, we're totally in Facebook. So, yeah.
I'm just going to play the flute
Does anyone?
a little bit here.
Oh,
I could say a bunch of the sounds. So we are using some sampled little pieces. This is kind of, in theory, the things that we're doing in the VR studios are kind of studies or proof of concepts. So the idea is that it's not really 100% polished or finished work. It's just here to be exploration of the different artists' practice and how we might start to look at using VR in their practice.
yeah.
So
I think the sounds that we recorded were sounds that we recorded. So we were using.
This is me playing the flute.
Like that. There isn't the. It's an improvised. The idea is that it's improvised. So. So it's meant to be random. There's no and Josh programmed that in there. So, and the sounds we use like a glockenspiel. You can see the rabbit. Is playing the glock. And we recorded those sounds here in the studio, and cut them out. I guess the challenge was how do we make a sort of immersive, improvised experience, in virtual reality, and we had like the chickens, Gertrude and Alice, playing like a tambourine, so we got a sample of tambourine. So that was really cool, and I think for me, I like when I listen to music, I tend to close my eyes and just let the music kind of take me on a journey. But so it was really interesting to see how these sounds came into a visual world. And walking around in that space was really interesting to me.
Let's hear. What do you think about VR in general, Nick? This was your first experience of going into VR, wasn't it?
Yeah, this was my first time, and it was really cool. I feel so lucky that I had this opportunity to look at VR and music in this way, or music and sound. Particularly like just walking through a space and having sound, sound interact with it. That previous artist that you mentioned who made that patch was
Jessica Eckermann.
Yeah. That was really cool. I really enjoyed it, and
there's something that's kind of, even if you're not considering this to be sort of the thing that's generating the music on its own, it could be quite interesting to use this as something that you play too, because having something that sort of drifts around and challenges you to sort of respond to it in a particular way could be quite interesting.
Take it outside of
Mm-hmm. Do you think? What's your judgment? What's your opinion? We do have the benefit of having viewers here, so we can enjoy it in its intended opening style atmosphere. Cool. Oh, there we go. It's working again. I hope that I just noticed that the Zoom microphone, this one on the desk, this one here, wasn't working for the last bit of it. So hopefully it was working for a fair bit of Nick talking about stuff. If not, then we can answer the things again and we can talk about more stuff. I've just turned down the volume of the experience. That's quite a nice view, actually. I'll mute that microphone. Cool.
They're all here. Everyone's here. I'm gonna it is very close to what it's like being in a gallery.
It is. Was that my beer?
Some people want to engage.
Yep.
Some people just want to look at the artwork, and I get why would you want to ask questions?
Yeah. Other than like, is the beer
It's
free?
the beer good?
Yeah. Well, that's so good. I did like that.
Who is that?
That's Tarek.
Do you know?
Yeah. Okay, we might call. Should we call it? If people want. Or Josh, do you have any questions that you want answered? We have a come here for a moment to. We have documenting. There's your head. Who actually was probably walking around in the background of the green screen, not realizing that he was part of it. Anyway, Josh is documenting this side of things, and he is also going to be responsible for asking any questions that we might have missed out from our live studio audience.
Whoa, what a position to put in on the spot. Thanks, guys.
So, do you want to have a go? I'll give you the thing. Okay, just stick that on your face. And, where are the controllers? Okay. Sweet. So Josh is going to go in. I'll turn on his microphone again so we can hear his oohs and ahs as he gets excited about the experience. And just to restart, just press down on the joystick to reset everything. So to grab those objects, you use the grab button, which is just your middle fingery sort of one. Also, I suppose we could talk about the fact that for this set of VR studios, we've transitioned from using the Vive, HTC Vive, which is quite a big headset, on here. So this big thing. We've actually, probably for all of our studios, maybe one or two will still use the Vive because we'll use all the processing of the PC and just leave it plugged in. So the Quest is really great. It's very small, very portable. The only problem is that if you really want it to do a lot of processing, like you've got a really, really complex world, or you want it to look particularly polished and amazing, the easiest way to do that is just to do it with a PC that's got a lot of more grunt and sort of fling that at the headset. So for most of the projects, we're probably going to use the Quest, which is a lovely little headset. I'll get one actually.
Someone asked you a question?
No, well, who knows? Josh is going to ask questions, but I just thought I'd do a little bit of a explanation.
This is really cool. It's not really a question. That's what's on my mind at the moment. I love these trees, man. It's so like the scale of everything is once you're in the world is really impressive. It's like there's something I don't know. They're kind of leering's not the right word. But you're right.
So just to talk about what we've done for this studio, we've moved pretty much from this thing. This is this is an HTC Vive Pro with a wireless antenna on the back of it. And we've moved from that, which is the same resolution as what we've moved to. We've moved to this, which is the Quest, which is a lot more small and comfortable to use. And so, it's pretty obvious why we're using this one. It's a lot less intimidating, it's more comfortable. You can build experiences onto it. So Nic's work You can just run it just from the headset itself without needing to have a computer running it, and it does all the job for you. Yes. Do you have any questions, Josh?
So did I hear correctly before something about being able to use the space to improvise music?
So your did you reset the experience? Your
I
stars.
don't know.
Okay. Those stars, the way that it works is when you move around those stars, as you're holding them, you'll hear the instrument that star affects. And then by repositioning in the space, you sort of... There you go. So everything else sort of fades out.
Oh yeah, it isolates it. So this
Yeah.
is the sitar.
And some of the instruments, it's a little bit harder to hear what instrument it is, because if it's like the triangle or the cowbell or something, it only plays every so often anyway, so you won't necessarily hear it as soon as you grab the star.
This is really interesting right now. It's like it seems to be changing the pitch
Yep.
of the giraffe, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But like, so do the constellations as you grab the different portions and move them around, the effect on the instrument's not always the same.
No, some of them do different things. So the vocal one, you're changing the pitch. For the percussive instruments, there are a few different things that we can change, and we're sort of exploring what we could do for different types of instruments. Because obviously a percussive instrument doesn't really have the pitch so much, or it's not so meaningful to what's going on in the song. So for the percussive ones, you are changing how dense the repeating pattern is, so how often the animal plays, and also you might be changing between a few different sounds that thing will make, so different types of tones from the cowbell, for example. Yeah, and for the flute, you're shifting between different sort of banks of music being played on the flute. I don't know why that's not working, that one. So there's like the flute starts off with just long single note drones, and if it shifts or if you shift it, it goes to sort of more little noodly bits that can be quite nice.
Huh.
I wonder if anyone's asking questions.
Did you play Josh? That was really good.
Josh.
I beg your pardon? You asking me?
He's just basically creating.
So,
Oh yeah.
what was the reasoning behind putting some of these out of reach? Is that like thrashing heavy metal guitars? You've done that to tease me?
They move. They move by themselves. So if you reset the button, if you press down on the joystick. Yep, just press it down. Not like actually push down like a button rather than...
Oh, like press it in. Right, okay, yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
So they all start in that position, and then they all drift off in whatever direction they want to go.
I'm interested in why we went for that type of instrument.
Which one?
The one in the middle, where it's like lots of different balls.
Oh, yeah.
Sort of. With that.
I mean, when we were starting, that if you remember, we were talking about the circle. And it's like what it could be. Having some way of influencing the different parameters. Like I kind of liked the whimsy of that constellation. The idea that there's this sort of beautiful abstract thing that that if you understand is representative of what's going on in this sort of world between the musicians, where they're sort of negotiating what they're playing, is kind of beautiful to think of improvisational music and the communication between the musicians as this sort of hyper object thing that like if you could see it would be really intricate and
Cool.
It's got this real, I think maybe because of the way that you manipulate the different instruments with your hands, there's this real, I don't know, for me anyway, there's this real like kind of mixture of music and almost like dance because of the way that your hands kind of.
Yeah, absolutely.
When I want to like grab onto things, I want to kind of start doing all kinds of crazy stuff.
I was enjoying sort of weaving the different connections together as I was doing it.
Yeah, it's really like, I don't know, it's therapeutic.
Yeah.
Just kind of moving it around.
It's nice as well that it interacts with sound, because I found being in that space sound to be such a thing that's sort of shaping my reality. You know, like.
Should we talk to that question? Did Ainsley reply to her own question? It makes me think of expanded theremin. Yeah, it is kind of like an expanded theremin. I think especially the instrument that is just modulating pitch, playing it kind of feels like playing a theremin. So we wanted to have, in the choice of how the different stars affected the different instruments, we wanted to try and skirt this territory between, and this is something that we talked about a lot just in general, like very, very, very general sort of almost philosophical conversations about things in the world. But that sort of room, the space between something being too organized, just like totally regimented, where we could have just said, here is a song that it's going to play, we know that it sounds good, here's all the harmonies that go into it.
We're talking about loops then. So we were going to take a loop approach where, you know, something was looping and that was measured, and then we could take that.
Just basically turn different bits on and off, and it would sound good. And there are games that kind of do that, where they kind of reward the player for leveling up or getting achievements by sort of building. You have a song that gets more sort of pathos to it because they've got the next part of it, and blah blah blah. And then the other space is the too chaotic, where if it's playing itself, it would just, you know, we could have made something where 9 times out of 10, if you just let it play itself, it would head off in the direction of total dissonance and chaos. And so
come back again. So we were aiming for, we wanted both. You know, we wanted there to be moments of, like a sort of floating experience.
And not either being too perfect and too organized or too chaotic. So the choice of the way that the different stars influence the different sounds is kind of related to that. What was your other question? So space and sound, particularly VR space. I suppose that's kind of like a thing of the theremin, how moving through space changing music affects things.
And she asked, what do you think of the added dynamic in this trailer?
The spatialness?
The added dynamic?
Which
there were
dynamic?
lots of dynamics.
Dynamic.
I guess, yeah, I mean, we're talking about the dynamics of the sound. That was amazing because, you know, you sort of take for granted I know I do, how much sound affects my reality in this space, like in reality. But then how much, like say if we took the sound out of the virtual reality experience, it would feel like such a different thing. So if the dynamics weren't there, it would feel quite static and, you know.
Well, here's maybe a question for you. Coming from being a musician, what did you, being introduced to sort of working within this spatial context, was it being introduced to something, or was it something that you're used to working in, just in a different medium? It's not as if you, because one of the things that we talked about was sort of that circle of people playing music, the improvisational, the context of improvisational music as a group, where it's the space of it is really interesting. There was something that came out where you're like, it's cool as an audience member to be in the center of it instead of being sort of, to have the musicians around you rather than having them off in the distance and you're just sort of there observing it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of fun to be in the midst of everything, of all the musicians playing. But do you think, like, what expanded way of thinking do you think came out of doing it in VR rather than just having a whole bunch of sliders?
I think to be able to access that experience, I think it's so rare to have an experience where you are surrounded by, people, playing sounds and, but in this case, animals.
That's even rarer.
Which is even rarer. So, I think that having been put into that space just quite frequently, just having access to that kind of that space with sound and visually with that sort of immersive experience where you're sort of surrounded by musicians was the sensation was really quite wonderful. So at the beginning it was quite overwhelming, and then it became quite exploratory, exploring the space, and then you sort of went more into how do these characters feel, and how am I affecting them, and how are they affecting me, and it became more of a shared.
Let's talk about because as this is a study, it's not a finished thing, and we had a lot of ideas that we weren't able to fully flesh out, but should we talk about how the animals, some of the emotions of the animals, and how they might not want to play certain things, and like that sort of dynamic of it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure. Well, I mean, the first one would be the most obvious is the bear, who is probably the most dominant the creature that you think would play the most, but it's not. It's quite fragile and sensitive, and sort of waiting for that moment when it's gonna play the triangle. It just is like and
there was potentially going to be something where the different animals wouldn't just be shifting through the sounds and the things that they were playing, but they would have some sort of internal emotional states. So like one of them would want to play slower, would want to play particular types of things, and if you sort of shifted in, they might be resistant or they might just look grumpy. So like, I kind of like the idea that you wouldn't be able to choose some arrangement where all the animals would be totally happy about it. They'd all be ambivalent, and like one of them would like this thing and the other one would like this thing. You'd sort of form this thing, and there would be sort of the emotional dynamics of the group coming into play a little bit as well.
Definitely that being able to connect with the animals emotionally was, I think, maybe part of the reason why we used animals, because they are emotional in their
freaking adorable as well.
So that idea that the animals weren't always going to be happy, and the animals had their own emotions, was really important to give them character and personality, because those personalities and emotions were going to sort of create the music that we made together, or that you'd make together.
So it's almost like, rather, there's a few things that are there for just sort of generating music, where you can programs and you hit a button and it might come up with something. I suppose one thing that's interesting about this, inspired by your experience with improvisational music and what you're doing now and playing in a group, is that it talks more to sort of wider dynamic of improvisational music, rather than just this is a way of coming up with sort of generative music. You're talking about like what's the relationship between the different musicians, like how this thing is sort of a social practice as much as it's a music
Yeah.
because you do get certain things that are like, okay, you hit the button and it will sort of generate something that changes over time, but this is sort of more talking about the fact that there's different people involved in the process, I suppose. I wonder if anyone's asked any questions, because I've sort of been stuck on this for a while. I hug the bear. Yeah, the bear is adorable. I don't know what Troll Hunter is, but this is friendly. I hope you notice and appreciate the fact that the chickens are sitting down next to the fox. Perfectly harmonious world, apart from the fact that maybe the fox gets annoyed by the percussive rhythms of the chickens. It's all good. Sweet, yeah. Yeah, good. Okay.
The fox has a somewhat familiar voice.
Yeah. Well, the fox is inspired by Leonard Cohen. Is that obvious?
It's inspired by what, sorry?
Leonard Cohen.
I thought it was your voice.
Wait, my voice?
Yeah.
Have we got the same voice?
You and Leonard Cohen?
No, me and Nick.
Really?
It's Nick's voice.
Oh, there you go.
Do we sound like the same person?
It's very similar. Like, I don't know, it's hard to tell, but
We both got beards.
that's what I thought.
Maybe we are. Could possibly be the same person.
That's weird.
Cool. Alright, well, we're coming up to the hour, and I can't think of anything else to talk about, to be honest. One last ditch. Any more questions, Josh?
I'm not sure if you guys covered this before, but the movement of the balls as they kind of spread out across the space, is that like completely random, or is it guided by anything?
If you reset and just stand back. So what it is it's a nice generative noise algorithm. It's kind of like being on the surface of a wave. So it's shifting. They will, in theory, they'll sort of oscillate a little bit, so they'll come back into a central position. Some of that is about how much time we had to play with it. I think, I did do a little bit of tweaking just to make sure that they wouldn't fling off into the outer reaches of space as soon as you started doing it. And there is always the opportunity to, they don't actually need to be totally within reach, because there's a little bit of a grab at distance. Yeah, so you can sort of point at things and grab them. That's another thing I was thinking about. At the moment we're using controllers. I'm not sure if it's clear to the audience from the video that we're using controllers. I suppose you can see the motion of the hand is very sort of discreet. The Quest headset now supports hand tracking, so you could be in there just using your hands and grabbing things. One reason why I didn't do that, even though it might have been kind of a nicer, like intuitive way of interacting, is that we wouldn't have been able to have the grab at a distance be so intuitive. So you would be able to actually grab stars and move them, but it wouldn't have been clear that you could grab things at a distance. It's sort of it's open question which one is more intuitive. I think the hands. There's a good argument for using the hands just because it's sort of, you go in just with the headset, you actually grab things, then you when you grab them. But yeah, definitely playing with the hand tracking of the Quest is something that's quite exciting for different types of experiences. All sorts of things that you can do with it.
Yeah, totally.
And
pushes the music and then pushes your like body and like you were saying before, like makes you question like why are you moving the work like that?
Yeah, right. Yeah. Why are you doing it?
Yeah. Why am I pushing this thing up so, like...
Well, and I tried to make it a little bit to answer that question of like what is going on in this world, we don't, there's no onboarding, as you would say, in like traditional games where you give people a tutorial of how to do things. And there's an interesting thing about like when you're presenting experiences in this way, how much you explain do you even need to. Normally in an opening, one person will see it being done and they'll know what they can do just from seeing what's going on. I did try and make something a little bit more clearer. So you see when he's holding the ball, the color changes on the point that it's connected to, and it sort of glows. If you move, do you want to move it closer and further away? It sort of ramps up. The further away it is, it ramps up intensity. And that was just because it was a little bit ambiguous when there were colored balls with a whole bunch of connections to white stars. What's going on there is all of the properties that you're changing are just based on how far they are from their little center of origin, which is the glowing thing that it's connected to. And that was just trying to give it a little bit more information so you knew what you were moving away from and towards. I'm not sure. It might still be a little bit ambiguous. It looks pretty, which is nice.
Yeah, it's colourful and it's attractive. So it makes you want to engage with it.
We are over time. Should we check? Cool, that was cool. All right, yep, thanks everyone for watching. This is recorded, so we'll just stick it up online and other people can continue to watch it. And yeah, thanks for virtually coming to the opening. And
yeah, thank you.
Cool, bye.